You're listening to another episode of the Just Go Bike podcast. That's AKA Murph.
And that's AP. And this is the podcast where we talk about cycling just for the fun of it. With tales from all over the nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. Well, hello there, AP, and happy holidays to you.
Hi, Murph. Happy holidays and welcome to the last Just Go Bike podcast of 2023.
Oh my gosh, I thought you were going to say the last ever.
No, of 2023.
Okay,
I
of
mean,
2023, yes.
I would not say something like that.
I know. So we are both off this last week of the year. I guess we call it a winter break, maybe.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get together and do just a really short podcast to, just talk, entertain you guys while you're doing whatever it is you're doing to end your 2023.
Yeah, just a short little celebration of the season, and a thanks to you, the listener, for being with us here for the whole year and enjoying bikes, celebrating bikes with us.
So I will be spending the week in Texas with my family, and hopefully there's going to be some good weather, and I have a few more miles to go before I reach my year-end goal. So hopefully I can get a hold of a bike and log those last few miles.
Yeah, I am reaching on my winter challenge, so I've been biking every day. I'm going to hit that challenge. I'm celebrating the holidays with my family in Coralville, and just really enjoying the family time. We loaded up the dogs. It's a full house. But the funny thing is that to get these miles, I have to ride, while I'm at my parents' house, and their bike trainer is a recumbent bike. So
oh no,
it's just a little different vibe than what I'm used to. But hey, kind of keeps it fun, keeps things mixed up. So, and besides that, I am baking my family famous, I won't say world famous, it's family famous blueberry pie.
I was going to say, aren't you a master baker of pies?
I am a master pie baker. Although I wouldn't stack up against any actual professional. They don't look pretty. They just taste pretty. So, yeah.
Well, it's crazy to think about, but a new year is just around the corner. I mean, if you're listening to this as we post it, just days away.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's just like turning the page, a fresh start. As we mentioned a couple episodes, for RAGBRAI, we've already been thinking 2024 for some months now, but personally, it's time to flip that page and mark the halfway point of the winter challenge. How do you approach a new year? What are your thoughts about the new year? Tell me about it.
Well, I would guess I'm like most people, where I spend a little bit of time reflecting on the past year and then, kind of move on. I don't dwell on anything, good or bad. And then I just move forward. It's kind of, to be honest, it's kind of just another day, but
yeah.
It's whatever you make of it. How about you?
Yeah, first of all, I don't make resolutions because I'm already perfect, but,
what?
I'm just kidding. I'm not perfect. I'm far from it, but I try not to do resolutions because it puts an unnecessary pressure on yourself to, I like more incremental change. I like focused change. I don't know. I don't like the pressure of resolutions, and I feel like I never keep them anyway.
Right.
I don't like to be negative about myself on a new year anyway. So what I like to do to celebrate the turning of the years is to go through my phone and look at all my pictures of what I've done over the years, and maybe post some photos of things that I forgot to share with my friends and family on social media. And so I try to look back that way and just sort of celebrate all the cool things that I've done within the last year.
I do the exact same thing. I go through photos. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that one day trip, or I forgot about, hanging out with that group. So I do the same thing. And as far as New Year's resolution, I typically, I may write up a few goals, but I rarely look at them. You know what I mean? You might write it down in a journal or somewhere, and then I never even look at them. So it's more of a ritual to do it, but I'm not very good at following through. So I just don't even really think about it.
Yeah. Well, it's important to reflect, but I think we should reflect on the podcast. Let's forget us. Let's talk about the podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do know, I don't have the exact number, but we recorded over 70 episodes in 2023.
Wow. That's
I
awesome.
know. Yeah.
That's a lot of podcasts.
That's a lot of podcasts, and that's a lot for you, the listener, to listen to our voices. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. We had all sorts of memorable moments. I think one of the most memorable moments for me was meeting everybody at the expo. And throughout the week during RAGBRAI, it was so incredibly special to meet you all and see who's tuning into our podcast and get the feedback about what we were saying that might have been helpful for you or what we could maybe add for the next couple of events that are coming up just to, help people more in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Meeting actual fans at the July Expo was really, really fun, especially when they would bring up episodes. Like, and this is a side note, it reflects on 2023, but we received an email recently from a guy by the name of Tom Hoddle. I hope I'm saying that right. And he was saying how he listened to the episode about 2024 rides that are coming up. And then he offered some suggestions of other rides. So we may have him on a future episode, but one of the rides that that's on my bucket list that he listed was the Natchez Trace. So I hope to do some research on that ride, maybe actually ride it in 2024. But those are extremely, I love those kind of moments when people listen to us and then take the time to write to us and tell us that they loved an episode or they have a question or a comment. I love that. One other memorable thing about this podcast is all of the rider recaps. When people talk to us and say, here's how my RAGBRAI was, or here's what I did, just to hear everyone's story, because, we all do RAGBRAI, but we all do it different. So
yeah. And just little side note on the feedback from episodes that people have given us, we're bringing back the coffee tour episode in 2024.
Oh, heck yes.
Where we talk about the coffee houses that will be along the route on RAGBRAI. And maybe we'll do one for Ride the Rockies too. You never know. But that was a big piece of feedback that we got, and we heard yes. So that episode is coming back.
For sure. And I'm sure everyone knows I don't even drink coffee, but I thoroughly enjoyed recording that episode when we did it a couple years ago. So yes. So speaking of, do you have any favorite? I mean, it's hard to say an actual favorite episode, but do you have any favorites?
Oh man, looking back through the episodes that we recorded this last year, I really loved so many of them. Personally, a highlight is doing that Confused Breakfast podcast crossover with Mike Schulte, where we talked about our favorite cycling movies. Yeah. That was just really fun, and we got to go to a different studio and record together. And just, it was such a lighthearted, fun episode and just a different way to think about our podcast. So I really enjoyed that. I think my other favorite would be the pre-ride episodes, even though they're a challenge personally to record because you bike and then record the podcast, and it's difficult, but those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those. And it really was fun being in the Confused Breakfast podcast studio, which was kind of like the basement of this old building. And they video recorded it, which I've never watched. Have you?
No. We should probably bring that back.
I know. We should. Yeah, we should. Maybe on a YouTube channel or something, we could bring that back. So anyway, that's a side note. Listeners.
Yeah.
But anyway, pre-ride are definitely some of my favorite episodes. But back to those rider recaps. I absolutely love hearing someone's story, because even if you don't think you have a story, everyone has a story that can be pretty darn interesting.
And interviewing people at the expo was just a blast.
Oh my gosh.
I just love that. Getting to see everybody, getting to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And then seeing them time and time again through the week. It was just, what a treat. What an amazing highlight.
Yep, I agree. I do have a low point. I don't know if you do, Andrea, but...
Yeah, I do. Well, I said that the pre-ride was a favorite, but I think the pre-ride is also a low point because we get pretty tired towards the end of the week. And maybe we're not at our podcasting best, but we do it, okay?
That's right.
We make it happen, and we try to include as much information at the end of the week as the beginning and do the best we can. But I do think it accurately reflects how you get more and more tired as the week of RAGBRAI goes on, but you're still having fun.
I would agree, yeah. Okay, so here's my low point, and I don't even know if you know this story, but I did an interview with a woman, and I'm not even going to tell you the episode because it doesn't matter, but I was using the recorder. It's a Zoom recorder, and typically I have it plugged into the wall, right? So this particular instance, I was using the batteries that were on inside the recorder. So got through probably 40 minutes with this woman, and she was kind of, telling some sad stories about some things that had happened to her on the bike. And it was a really, really heartfelt, good episode. And I looked down at my recorder and the batteries had gone dead. So it stopped. It was just off. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So then as she's talking, she's, we're kind of wrapping things up. I find my cord and I'm plugging it in and like, oh my God, this is crazy. I push record again and finish the interview and, thank her and then tell her, okay, this will be, on this date is when it will go live and I'll send you a link and thank you for your time. And then after I hung up with her, I realized that when the battery went dead, I lost the entire episode.
Oh,
so
no.
All I had were the last 3 minutes of her saying, thanks for having me on. And what a great time talking to you. So oh my gosh, I was so sad.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That is a low point.
It was very low. So I waited a couple days to figure out what am I going to do? Like it was so, and so I emailed her and told her and we ended up recording again. So it was still a great episode and it still kind of gives me like the shivers thinking about it because it was such a bummer. As I'm looking right now at my recording device to make sure it is recording.
I know. I just double checked too. I mean, strikes fear in the heart of any podcaster, but I'm glad your guest was a good sport.
Yes, definitely.
So,
I'm so glad she had the time to tell me the same story again. And
it
was probably better the second time anyway.
Well, there you go. Everyone had a little practice. Okay, so let's flip the script. Let's talk about some high points instead of the low points. What was good about your 2023 in podcasting?
Well, it's kind of a broken record, but like meeting people that I've interviewed or that listen to our episodes is pretty awesome. One example is this year, I had recorded, actually it might have been 2 years ago, I recorded the episode with Sherry Ott. She's from Ott's World, and she's the one that is riding her bike capital to capital to finish up a goal that her dad started. He actually walked capital to capital, and she's now biking capital to capital, and she's doing a segment at a time. Well, we connected when she was doing her Iowa. She was coming from the Nebraska border to end in Des Moines, and we ended up making it happen right before we were going to pre-ride. So I got to bike with her, and it was so much fun, and it was like the best of everything because she got to see rural Iowa, she got to see farmland, she got to see downtown Des Moines and the trail system. It was a great time.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I think my high points would be I was scrolling through the podcast list from the last year, and just the variety of people that we have talked to has been really cool. From Sabra Nagel from Ride the Rockies and Matt Phippen from RAGBRAI to Scott Sumter from Bike Iowa to Marley Blonsky from All Bodies on Bikes. I mean, we have just had the widest variety of people. I mean, Miss Kitty, the BMX racer.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the world's fastest woman, Denise Mueller. Those were pretty recent, but, we welcomed Luke Hockman to the Iowa Bicycle Coalition. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And apologies to people from the start of the year because I've only scrolled down a little bit and already gotten to all those people. But I mean, it was just so cool. I mean, we had the Shift documentary. We had Franklin Johnson from Bragg.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been a really special year talking to all sorts of different people from all over the country. And you know what? I've also enjoyed doing some pair talks in this year. So, it has just been really cool. It's kind of all a high point. I mean, just the variety is my high point from the year.
So if I'm hearing you right, we should do this again in 2024.
You know what? I think we should. Yeah. Yeah.
I know there's tons of people that we already kind of have on our radar of people we want to talk to in 2024. And should we share just a few Just Go Bike updates for 2024?
Yeah. And as always, if you have any suggestions for people that you think should be interviewed for our podcast, if you know any interesting characters or interesting stories that might fit the podcast, you're always welcome to email us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com and let us know. So yeah, I'd love to hear that. Or in person, come up and see us in person. We'll be live at the Iowa Bike Expo here in Des Moines, Iowa, the last Saturday of January 2024, the 27th.
Yes, and we are going to have a booth, and we're going to set it up kind of like we did on RAGBRAI, where we're not going to be recording the entire day. We're going to be walking around and talking to people as well. But stop by there, and if you see us, maybe you want to be on the podcast too.
Yeah, yep. It's going to be so much fun, and we'll be wearing, now we haven't talked about this, but Wild Guest will probably be wearing our baby blue shirts so that you'll be able to spot us in the crowd. And just come on over and say hi. And we would love to see you there in person at the Iowa Bike Expo. And that runs most of the day before the route announcement party.
And then that segues to the RAGBRAI route announcement party is happening that evening, January 27th. And of course, we want you to come and be there live and, party with us, have fun, learn about the new route. But if you happen to be at home, AP and I will be live streaming after the route is announced. I'll be talking to some of the overnight towns, like the representatives from those communities. I'll be talking to Matt Phippen, possibly Luke Hoffman from the Iowa Bike Coalition, any other characters that want to talk. So that'll be live streamed. So that'll just be a fun opportunity to get a little bit more of Murph and AP.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool party. Always is at the Iowa Event Center. And I think the band this year, it hasn't been on RAGBRAI before, as far as I know. It's called the Bad Friends, and they're really fun. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the band. Hopefully you don't hear it in the live stream as well. I think we've figured it out so we can avoid that. But it's going to be just a fun time. I can't wait for that. Beyond that, we have all sorts of different interviews ready for you. We have all sorts of things lined up, like we said. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm not going to reveal anything at this point, but unless you want to.
Nope, not yet.
That's my other update for Just Go Bike. We have some new interviews.
Yes. And we are going to, for 2024, move to a new day. So if you're used to listening to this episode on Thursday or Friday, you can keep on doing that. That's just fine. But we're going to post it earlier in the week. So might not be a big deal to most people, but just something, we're going to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, so you tune in on a Tuesday or Thursday or Friday, depending on whatever your listening preferences are. But we're just going to try some new stuff just to kind of see when people might want to listen to the podcast. We'll also be introducing a new weekly segment with tips for riders and a couple other little format changes just to kind of keep things fresh and just see if we can make the podcast even better for you.
Yes. Well, before we wrap up, I think we both, I'll speak on behalf of you, AP, we want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you, the listener, for joining us on this cycling journey throughout the year, right?
Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for being there. Thanks for saying hi to us at events. You make us feel appreciated, and we appreciate you even more. Okay. So it's just been really special on this journey. Your support, your enthusiasm, your stories. We have loved hearing them. We have loved getting to meet you. We have loved talking at you, and we can't wait to do more of the same in the coming year.
Totally agreed. So here's to the end of 2023, and we're going to have an amazing 2024. Well, listeners, that is it for this week. We both want to thank you for tuning in to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast.
And if you'd like to contact us with a comment about the podcast, or maybe you have a topic in mind, you can reach us at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com, or you can also follow us on social media at Just Go Bike on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. And if you have any extra time, pop on over to the Murphology podcast for more bike adventure interviews.
All right, that's a wrap. We'll be back next week. Until then, just go bike!